Hi there, and welcome to the Creatives Get Real podcast. I am Roben-Marie Smith.
And I'm Sandi Keene, and these are real conversations about the creative life. Hey, Roben-Marie.
Hey, Sandi, how's it going?
Good. So we have a huge topic that we're going to talk about today, and it is so big that we're going to do it in two parts.
Yes, we are. Actually, we recorded it, and it was over an hour. So we were like, oh boy. But it's a great topic we've been asked about, especially recently, about organizing our space, our creative space, and even organizing our tools and our art supplies. And so we are going to talk about both aspects of that. And this will be the first part of that.
Yeah, and we got going and we talked for almost an hour because there's so much to discuss. So this is going to be part one.
Mm-hmm.
And then next week, we hope you'll join us again, and that will be part two.
Okay, so we hope you enjoy this episode.
So today we're going to talk about something. I know I always say it's a fun topic, but this one really is.
Mm-hmm.
And it is something that's very near and dear to my heart because, man, I love me some organization.
Yes, she absolutely does. This is true.
Mm-hmm. I will organize my organizing.
Yep.
So today we're going to chat about organizing your art space.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to start there, and then we'll kind of move into the organizing of our actual supplies as we're working. So we're kind of going broad, and then we're going to kind of like go down and narrow that. And actually, this is a topic we've been asked about through some comments and emails that we've gotten about the just organizing, which seems to be a topic that is of interest to a lot of creatives and artists. Mm-hmm. So we thought we'd go ahead and do an episode on it.
Yeah, sounds good. It's so easy to get unorganized in your art space. I mean, I think all of us, even organized people like myself, I fight it constantly because it's just so easy to throw things down. And
yeah, and I mean, we want to be creating and to, that feeling of that constant keeping things organized, because when we're creating, it's not like we're very organized while we're doing it. I mean, right. It's that whole idea of the table starts out great and everything looks good. And then all of a sudden your space starts to become the size of a plate. And then you can't do anything. And then you get frustrated. And then you either just stop going in your art room or your creative space. And you're like, okay, now I'm overwhelmed because I have so much to do in there that I can't even think. And I don't want to go in there and even start.
Yes. And I know that I'm guilty of, I always overestimate how long it's going to take me to clean up, because I look in and I see my table, which, is 6 inches high, just heaped with papers and everything. And I look at that and think that's going to take me 2 hours, when the truth is it's going to take me 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's basically the length of a short podcast. So here's a hint. Put us on. Let us talk to you while you clean up your space. And before we're done talking, you're done.
There you go. You're right.
It's awesome.
I like that. A good idea.
Yeah. But I do the same thing where the table, your supplies just encroach on your space until you're sitting. You have a studio. I have a studio. We're very lucky. This is the first time I've ever had a studio. And, I'm sitting in a 12 by 12 bedroom that's been turned into a studio. And my working space is, if I'm lucky, 12 by 12 inches.
True. That's right.
And you're like, this makes no sense. Mm-hmm. But we do it every time.
Yeah. And then it's like, okay, I've reached that point now where the space is so small, I can't work. And I don't know about you or the listeners, but I'll just start just pushing everything out, and it's like, okay. And then I hear the crashing on the floor, like, okay, then there's stuff on the floor now because I've moved it, or I still have things on the floor because I need to reach things that I can't reach on the table. So now I've got this thing and that thing over here, and then it becomes claustrophobic, and it's like, okay, there's got to be a better way.
Yes, I absolutely do the exact same thing. So let's start huge, and let's talk about when you and I both have gone through, let's call them remodels, redesigns, where we've taken our space and said, this is no longer working.
Yeah.
And then we cry because we know we were looking at a couple
Yeah.
of weeks.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I cried, but mine took months. Yeah. It was, and I also, I had my rubber stamp company at the time. So I had in my room, in my space, I had a lot of the storage of my inventory was in there as well. And it just was not organized very well. And I don't know why I let it get the way to that point, but I remember going in there at some point and I just looked in there and I thought, number one, I can't create here anymore. I can't move. And I couldn't find anything, like stuff I knew I had. It was the worst. It was a nightmare. I can't even describe it. And I do have videos out there of what it looked like before. And I'll link to that in the show notes for anybody who wants to like take a look at, because it was bad. And I remember telling my husband, I remember saying, honey, I need some help. I need to get this room organized a little bit. We got to get rid of some of this inventory in here. And he goes, oh, no problem. Whatever, like he said, this weekend or whatever, I'll help you. I said, no. I need to take everything out of the room and I need to start over. And I knew I could just feel the anxiety of it, thinking this is going to be an overwhelming task. And I said, I have to take everything out. And I did. I literally, everything came out of the room. I went through everything I had. And I started over, and it was the best thing I did. Now, I'm not saying that everyone needs to do that, but it's what I needed to do to really get, number one, organized and to be able to make the space workable for me. And it took months. I mean, I didn't work on it every day for months, but it literally took time because, life goes on. You can't just do that full time. But and there were times when I'd even see these bins full of stuff and I go, those can wait till later. And I was like, no, I made a commitment and I had to stick to it, that every single thing was going to go on. I had to go through it all and just redo. And I did. And it was awesome. It was so hard. And I was so frustrated during the process, but it's exactly what I needed to do to make it work for me and just literally start from ground zero and start over.
Yeah. Because I think what happens is that our rooms become, it's like they reflect the artist we used to be.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, I'm not that person anymore. There are mediums that I don't, I don't need 6 shelves of scrapbook paper. I don't scrapbook anymore.
Exactly. And that's a great point, because prior to that, I had dabbled in so many things. I was doing jewelry art, I had tools, I had beads, and I was like, I just don't see myself pursuing that. So why do I need, I'm storing all of this in here, valuable real estate that could be used to organize the things that I really am using.
Right. So I think it's really important. It was something that my sister, who is so supportive, she came over and she's like, in fact, she brought my niece, her daughter, who's an adult, and the 3 of us started it. And she just kept asking me, picking things up, does this reflect who the artist you are now? And that was the perfect question.
Yeah.
And I think it's one that I often still use. Does this reflect the artist that I am now? And I had to say no a lot. And I am embarrassed to tell you how much stuff left this space. It was an overwhelming amount. And I, made peace with it by donating it to a school.
Oh yeah. And that's what I did as well. It was a lot of stuff that went to the school. And you're right. It was a feeling of, wow, I really have overdone it in that department, and, buying and purchasing. And I think it helped me now, since then, to be much more discerning when I'm shopping or considering buying. And I hold off a lot more now and wait and go, do I really need that? Okay, let's just sit on it. And then I'll decide, because it's the latest and greatest or whatever. Or if it's just something I think, well, I'd like to have that. Do I really need that? Where am I going to put it?
Where are you going to put it? Yeah,
exactly. Is it going to now be a situation where I'm back where I was before?
Right.
There's a few things I'm kind of analyzing. Paper is I have a weakness for paper. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, I've got some paper I need to go through again, but it's okay, because once that system was set up in place and I know where everything is now, it's sort of like that idea is like, if you're going to put stuff in, you need to take stuff out. So
Right.
go through your paints and see if there's things, if the paints are old now. I've got tubes of paint that were dried up in there. I was like, why am I still holding on to this? This is stupid, because I just
Right.
didn't make the time to go through it
Exactly.
and cull that inventory out and
Mm-hmm.
really do that on a regular basis. So yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is a huge job, and it's one that, has to continue on a smaller scale because, like you said, you just get right back in the same situation if you're not careful.
That's right. That's right. And we've talked about this before. The idea of, well, if I kind of just play with my stuff and I organize my stuff, or I keep it in such a way that I don't really know where things are, I'm wondering if mentally there's that idea of, I'm not creating because I have to do this. It's almost like once everything got organized, I didn't have an excuse anymore to just go, I just can't. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
was a real thing. I was paralyzed. Like, the space was so bad. But now everything is organized and I know where things are. And it feels like I'm freer now to be able to go in and go, all right, I'm not going to hide behind the organizing of everything. I can
Mm-hmm.
literally get in here now and actually create. Um, which led me, I was thinking about when we were talking about, because I remember talking to you about this process, and I don't remember the book. You probably do. I don't know if you do, where you really helped me in that one advice about trying to decide what works best for you when it comes to organizing, which I think is important for our audience to hear. It, everybody's different in how they work or create. So
Mm-hmm.
do you work best with your supplies hidden? Do you work
Mm-hmm.
best with them where you can see everything? What is your best way of organizing? And I realized for me, it was kind of a combination. I was so overwhelmed by all the clear bins and everything was like in my face. I realized
Mm-hmm.
that if I organize my supplies in such a way that I knew where they were, but I couldn't see everything. I mean, I know there's some things that are out, that it would help me not be so overstimulated in there and
Right.
overwhelmed. And so that was a conclusion I came to, was that dresser drawers was my thing. Like and I literally bought dresser furniture for the studio
Mm-hmm.
space where I know where everything is and it's organized, but I don't have to see it and be overwhelmed by all of,
Right.
looking at the clear bins. Plus, with the bins all stacked up, I couldn't access stuff. And so
Mm-hmm.
I would get frustrated and go, well, I'm just not even going to bother, because I don't want to pull down 5 stacks of bins to get to the bottom one that has the stuff in it that I need. So,
Yeah, that book you're talking about, I
yeah.
don't know if it's still in print because
Hmm.
it's an old book, but it was by Stacy Julian, who is a scrapbooker, one of the premier,
Hmm.
like grandmothers of scrapbooking. And I don't know if that book is still in existence, but it was all about organizing your space. And I can't tell you how many people I lent that book to,
Yeah, she
because
lent it to me.
it was amazing. And she does talk about that. How do you like your space? I like you. I like the stuff that I use all the time out and available, but I like other stuff
Hmm.
in drawers, clean storage so
Yeah.
that I don't see it. Otherwise, like you, I am very visually overstimulated, and then I can't do anything.
Yeah. I mean, and you can make it look beautiful. I mean, even seeing, things could be on shelves, but even that way, I felt like that's too much. Like, I don't want to see a wall that has all of my paint in rows and rows and rows. For me, I just, like you said, it's too much, too overstimulating for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I have the things I use the most often where I can easily reach them, and usually that's right on my art table or in a cart, and the rest is in drawers. But I know where everything is and it's
Mm-hmm.
organized, and it's just, even today after years of having done this, when I go, I need that hole punch, and I just walk to the drawer and I open my tool drawer and reach in and grab my hole punch, I think, Wow, that's
joy.
so awesome. I know.
Yes, it's
Just
so
knowing where
joyful.
my stuff is. It's like the small things, you know.
Right,
Hmm.
right. It's not buried under 3 books, 4 inches of paper and a glue gun.
Yeah, yeah. Or you can't find it, and so you got to go buy another one because you have no clue where it is. How many?
Yeah.
I know this audience can relate to that. Yeah,
Almost every single person is shaking their head yes right
yeah,
now,
yeah.
because we've all done it where you just can't find your fill in the blank,
Uh-huh.
and you buy another one. And when you do clean up and you find 3, you're like, yep, there they are.
Yep.
Yep. We all do it.
We do.
So I've seen your studio. I've been in your studio, and it is gorgeous. You did such a beautiful
You.
job. You made it it's very homey in like almost like a fancy dressing room way.
Mm.
I
Oh,
mean,
I like that.
that's
Yeah.
what it reminds me of is a woman's dressing room. There's beautiful fabrics on your windows. You have a lot of dressers, and
Mhm.
you've been very judicious about what's out and what's not. And it's
Yeah.
really, really pretty.
Well, I want to be in a space that I feel not overwhelmed in, but that
Mhm.
it still inspires me, but it's still a bit on the minimal side, but I can still be like, okay, I feel good in here. And I think that was really important. And also, as you just said about the very, I forget the word you use about what is out,
Right.
things. And sometimes
Judicious.
I move things around and I change
Mhm.
things a little bit, but there's also things that are sentimental to me in there as well. There's a light fixture. It's just a light fixture that hangs from the ceiling that we replaced the one that was in there. And my mom and I bought that on a trip when I was in high school. We had gone to Myrtle Beach, and it was just a great memory. And we bought it at a little antique shop, and we fixed it up, and it matches the curtains and everything in there. And I just love it. And so there's some sentimental value to some things in there. And the furniture that's in there it's warm. There's light colors, there's dark colors, but it does feel like that. I wanted it to feel like an extension of my house, where it
Right.
felt like
And it does.
a room that if we took the art table out and maybe moved a few things,
You could just put a
to put a
couch
sofa
in.
in there. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And it would be just, yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah.
Yes. And your space is not big.
No, it's
Do you
small.
know
Yeah.
what the dimensions are basically?
I think it might be either 12 or 14 by 10, maybe somewhere in there. Oh yeah, it's not a big space. So you have to be very clever about how you organize. And the dresser seemed to be the best option for me, was to be able
Mhm.
to do that. Now, one thing I did was on one of the walls. There was shelving. My husband had put up high shelving, and there are things on those shelves that are in some bins, but they're like extra canvases and things like that. So I don't want to take up that space in a drawer, because that's valuable real estate space I can reach. But what I did, because I still didn't want to see them, was I took and made curtains that are just the height or the length of that space. And I went to IKEA and I got those. They're for like curtains, but they're like wire, and you
Mhm.
just connect it, and then there are these little clips that you put on the curtains and they hang. And so that space is covered with a curtain,
Right.
even though it's not a window, and I can't see what's behind it, and it matches and it looks nice, but I know that stuff is there when I need it, because it's more just extra storage of things like that I
Mhm.
don't access on a regular basis, but I need to hide. And so you can get really clever with some of the ways that you can organize things so that you don't see
Absolutely.
them. Yeah.
And Pinterest is a
Oh
fantastic place
yeah.
to get ideas.
Yeah.
There's so much there.
Mm-hmm.
If our listeners are thinking about reorganizing, there's
Mm-hmm.
so much out there.
Well, I can see you while we're filming this, actually recording this, because we're doing it by video. So I can see Sandi sitting in her studio. And one of the things I love that she did with her space is, she mentioned earlier, it's a converted bedroom. But
Mhm.
tell us what you did with the closet, because I especially love what you did with the closet.
Okay. What we did was I had my husband take out the bifold doors, and then in that closet space, I put a dresser.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a dresser in there, and then there are 2 shelves over the
Mm-hmm.
dresser. But it's good storage that's, back.
Mhm.
out of my general space, and it keeps things more organized. But that worked really well for us, was taking the doors off and making it like a little annex to
Yeah.
the bedroom.
Yeah, and I like it. Yeah, that was one of my favorite things that you guys did when you
No,
did that.
thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too.
Mhm.
Just get it out of the main room, but it's still there, and it's pretty, and
Mhm.
it looks nice. So
Now
yeah, I
you
like that
also
too.
have your computer and in your art space as well.
I do. I have 2 desks in here because, after, I don't know, 5 years or so of my husband standing at the door looking at my studio, he said, "I'm coming in there." And we talked about divorce. I'm like, "Well, what do you mean you're coming in my studio?" But I did grant him, and I do grant, him 1 desk, and
Mhm.
he has a little area which he loves, where he does all of his bill
Mhm.
paying, and
Yeah.
he does, my accounting for my business and that kind of thing, and my desk is right next to it with my
Mhm.
computer. But he's not allowed to go anywhere else.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so I do have my computer in here. I use my computer when I'm, doing art often.
Mhm.
It's great for, especially with watercolor, doing reference photos.
Oh,
I
good.
I
Yeah.
have a giant monitor, so I just make it
Mhm.
big on my monitor, and
Yeah,
you're always going over to Pinterest or someplace going,
that's
now
right.
I need a bluebird, show
Mhm.
me a bluebird so I can get this right.
Yeah, and it's perfect because you can see it right from your art table where you
I
sit.
can.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
I
in a good
also,
space.
if I'm taking a class, I
Mhm.
can watch the class from my art table with the big monitor, and I just take my wireless keyboard over there with
Mhm.
me, and I can stop and start the video.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So that
That's a great.
works really well for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about how you and I both have organized, because we organize differently, our specific supplies, and what are our loves. Like,
Mhm.
what's the thing? Like, I have one thing, and you probably know what it is, that I'm obsessed with. What are you obsessed with for organization?
It changes too. I mean, there's time. Are we talking about our art table, like where
Yeah,
everything
like
is
where
right?
your pens and your brushes and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
are.
I like well, I do use really pretty like mugs and cups because I love to buy them, so I have to use them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a lot of those. And then I really like, and I think it's probably because of the nature of the furniture I have in there. I like to use old sewing machine drawers, kind of like like natural wood, vintagey kind of pieces. I like to
Mm-hmm.
incorporate in with the pretty colorful mugs and cups. And so, and then I have a few little, I guess you'd call them trinket dishes or like trinket plates or something that you would use maybe for jewelry or whatever. I like to put the little small things on that. So, I mean, I move things around a lot. I kind of get bored with everything kind of being the same all the time, which I think that's just a personality thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll buy something different and I'll like, oh, I think I'll change that out and use that. Or, yeah. So I think those are the main things that I like to have right there on my table while I'm working. Yeah. To
Well,
organize.
I'm obsessed with acrylic
Oh, she is.
organizers.
Oh, she
You know,
is. Yeah.
so I'm talking about like where you go into the makeup section of
Mhm.
your like Home Goods or
Mhm.
Marshalls or wherever, and it's those clear acrylic with the little drawers with all the little cubbies, the holes. Oh my gosh. I mean, seriously, I'm to the point now where I can no longer buy them. I'm not allowed to buy them anymore by my own decree. And but I love how, you can see everything in them, and it
Yeah.
organizes things. And because they're acrylic and clear, they're not visually cluttering.
Mhm.
You can look through them. I
Yeah.
really, really like those.
Yeah. Oh, she does. I will attest to that.
I mean, you
Yeah.
can see right over, I'm
I
sure you
can
can see
see.
it
I know. Yeah.
over my shoulder. I have a line of them.
Exactly. And but this is an interesting, you know, point here is that your way of organizing on your art tabletop is very different than mine.
Hmm.
And yet that works for you. And I've tried them. It just didn't work for me.
Right.
And so you have to find, what not only what works, but what you like. So just
Mm-hmm.
because somebody else uses XYZ to organize doesn't mean that's going to be what works best for you.
Right.
And you'll know if it's, of course, throwing things on the table works for me too, just on the table, but you know what we're saying, where things are organized. And I think because I like to have those, I don't know, just the way those things look pretty, and I like to have them, they really do match and go with the aesthetic of my space. And so
Mm-hmm.
that makes me happy. And so having those around, those are the things that I like to have my supplies in. But that doesn't mean that that's going to work for somebody else or be what's right for them, so you have
Right.
to find what's convenient and easy, and what you feel like, I like that, this makes me
Mm-hmm.
feel inspired and feel good about the space that I'm in. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go through a couple of things and just
Okay.
talk about, how we organize them. Let's start with pens. How do you organize your pens?
I have way too many pens and brushes, way too many. I kind of have these favorites and like my these are the ones I love the best, and they're always on the table. Then I
Mm-hmm.
have the ones that are sort of like my,
Auxiliary?
yeah, they're the
Yeah.
backup brushes, and the backup pens are in another, they're not right on the table. They're on a shelf, but they're still in the mugs and the cups and things where I can see them, or the wood boxes. And I like to organize my, because I like to buy, and this is where I was talking about mugs. I like, when I'm traveling, I like to get handmade artisan, like pottery things. I brought this one back from Alaska that I really like, and I like to put my crayons, my wax, I don't even pronounce it correctly, but that one crayon that I like to use, I
Like
put those in
Karen
there.
Dash?
That's the one that I can never
Okay.
pronounce. And I like to have those in there because it's the perfect height. So that's where I put those. And then I have the priority pens and brushes, like the ones I really, really love to use, I put in one mug, and then I've got the other ones next to it. But and then colored pencils, I put in a separate mug, the ones that I like the best. So yeah. So I do have a
Okay.
couple different, but I like them because then I can pick them up, move them around, however I want it.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to take it to another room, or I need to move it around the table or whatever, that's convenient for me to do that. So that's how I like to organize those. I know you said pens, but I threw in brushes and crayons.
That's okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, pens, I have an acrylic holder. Brushes, like you, I have them in a mug that I found in a furniture store, actually, that I love. But that's where my favorite go-to brushes is in a really pretty mug.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice because, I can grab and go. And I
Yeah.
have a generous supply. That's code for too many. I
Yeah.
have a generous supply of Posca pens, and they too are in a mug, and I love that because I can grab the mug and pack it. I pack mug and all when I go,
Mm-hmm.
up into the mountains, and so I like that, pick up and go kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's convenient. And the mugs aren't very big, so you can limit yourself. And I mean, in all reality, I can get my favorite brushes, my favorite pens and pencils right in one mug, if I
Hmm.
needed to do that. So it's very convenient. But I like that point about it being able to make it mobile and move it
Yeah,
around. Yeah.
transport it.
That's a great place for us to end in this episode. Stay tuned next week for part 2, where we will talk more about organizing your creative space.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Creatives Get Real.
We love hearing from you, so hop on over to Instagram and leave us a comment. And we also appreciate reviews on iTunes.
And you can find me, Sandi Keene, at sandykeene.com, and my classes at popupartclasses.com.
And you can find me, Roben-Marie Smith, at robenmarie.com. And if you're looking for and need tech support, check out my membership site, makerstechu.com.